On this episode, we're going on a journey of discovery, a story of a young woman that started a business just by making websites.
Yeah, I don't talk to many people who aren't sure entirely about whether they need a website. I'm often talking to people who know that they need one.
One website, then another, and then started piecing the puzzle of sales, charisma, communication, how to lead a person into action. So if you have some fears about conversing with other human beings, if you want to have tactical insights on how to sell.
You want to match people's pace and kind of make them feel comfortable. Yeah, that's a good point.
You've never had trouble in your life ever?
I suppose, yeah, someone who's willing to kind of take the time to sit down with you and actually build a website that you need, rather than selling you 3 times the sales for your business and disappearing into the night.
How to grow a business and how to make a website, then this one's for you. So we're kicking into it. We've got the website expert, and I sprung you about like, hey, well, what about your journey and what's some emotional moments in your life that people could resonate? So we'll baby step into that. But okay. What do you actually do? What would you say you do?
Definitely specialize in websites. So that was it started out as a hobby. So when I was at university, I was into websites and kind of had always played around with kind of online software, and I'd always kind of be interested in just technology in general and finding software that made things more efficient and apps and things. And then I kind of built a couple websites for friends and myself and kind of small business ideas that I had at the time. And then I ended up building a website for a friend of my dad's and kind of went through the whole process with them. And that was kind of when I realized I'd done the client side of the website and also done the design and build too. So I'd kind of done the whole process. And I briefly worked at a website and app company and then started building websites. I just set up my own because I could. And then people kind of slowly came through there, and I was doing probably one website a month during university, kind of in my 4th year. And then by the last year of uni, I was pretty much doing that full time, and uni had become like a side thing entirely. And I knew that the degree I'd done was going to be a waste.
Yeah, what was it?
It was a law degree, and
it could be a waste.
Didn't end up using it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, and then I've been working full time in it since, and it's kind of just naturally grown from myself to having more people involved to kind of help with the workload. And yeah, that's kind of the whole story. Yeah.
Boom, you got all professional suddenly. So let's unpack a little bit. So let's go back a little while. So were you born in Auckland, or where are you from?
Yeah, I was born on the North Shore. Haven't left yet.
Heard about them.
Yeah.
I'm from
Those people over the bridge. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm only just repeating from being here a few years. They always say something about the North Shore people. Yeah. They're doing well in life. So were you good at school? Oh, law probably.
I loved school. Yeah, I love school.
Yeah?
Yeah, I was really into it. Yeah.
Were you like if we were to do cliche high school movies, what genre would you be? Would you be the jock, the nerd, the popular
Definitely
kid?
the nerd.
The nerd?
Yeah, definitely the nerd. Yeah,
Interesting.
Yeah.
So all your friends had thick glasses and you'd just talk about law, or?
Yeah, we were always pretty academic and just kind of, I'm not good at sport at all, terrible hand-eye coordination. If you throw something at me, I'll block my face rather than go to catch it. I've got no ability. So yeah, it was definitely academics the whole way through, yeah.
Okay, and if you're on the North Shore, your parents like killing it in life, or was it hard, or what led to you wanting to go the upper echelon of academia? You know? Prove something? Homeschooled?
Yeah, I suppose that was just kind of what I viewed as like being successful, was getting good grades. And yeah, my parents weren't overly academic or anything. My parents were in business themselves, and they weren't like stellar students or anything like that. But yeah, I just kind of viewed that as that was what needed to be done. That was what kind of ticking the box and being successful at school was getting good grades. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So it just sounds like it's been a perfect, easy life. Nothing happened.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose I was definitely more nerdy in school, so I kind of ended up just
Surely
sticking...
someone picked on the nerd.
Yeah, well, yeah, sort of. So like an intermediate, I remember, because I've always been really interested in technology. And an intermediate, I just remember being so interested in it. I was the principal's technology expert. That was
so you're the teacher's
that was
pet.
my hobby. I was a major
like,
teacher's pet. Yeah. So I was, and everyone was really interested in sport and things, and that was just, sport was really important in school and high school and even sort of in university, and that was just something I could never really do, and so academics was kind of just where I ended up. Yeah.
You're tricky. Because you're like, oh yeah, I just love school. I was hanging out with the principal doing all the tech, and then I studied law, and then a business just happened by incident, and now here I am. So you've never had trouble in your life ever.
Not major trouble, no. I suppose I've been pretty good so far. Yeah.
What would you give your confidence a rating out of 10? Like, or self-worth? I mean, that's a hectic question. Mine's probably like a 4.5 on self-worth.
I think, probably maybe like a 7 or
okay,
maybe like a 7. Yeah. I'm not like overly confident, but I think I spend quite a bit of time working out. I probably won't do something unless I'm confident at it. So I hate being bad at things. So I'll only really do things if I'm good at it. Like I was trying to learn how to play golf this year, and I suck. I'm terrible. But I thought it'd be a good thing to learn how to do, and I like being outside, and I have no natural talent at all. And so I've kind of thrown in the towel already because I just hate to be bad at something. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think that is? What, like the not good enough thing, or like, was it hard? Like, were you ever punished if you did something stupid? And you're like, oh, bad. Samantha, why are you doing another why'd you wash the dishes like that, you idiot?
No, I suppose I'm a eldest sibling, and I suppose I've always just wanted to do well at things. I'd hate to be average at things, and so I'll kind of only do something if I'm good at it. And that's probably how I end up getting into websites, I suppose, because it was a hobby, it was something I loved, and because I loved it, I spent a lot of time on it and got good at it, and then it's kind of how I've ended up doing it for work. And I love it. Yeah, well, it's gonna be hard to get anything. You're Fort Knox. So maybe we'll just go to websites. Webflow, I've heard about it. It's like this next generation website, like you can do so much with. I get the ads, I've never used it. Yeah, and I always I've had some combative conversations with website designers on the podcast. Yeah, purely because it's an incredibly hard model. So my understanding is what tends to happen is they do big projects, and the main benefit for them is the customization and the functionality in the back end. So you do this like high price point, you work on it for quite a while, and then you got to get the next one, and you need a portfolio of websites to inspire people to do it, and referrals sort of grow. But when you try and get a salesperson, when they can't grow off your reputation, so you've got this reputation mark, Samantha puts in a solid effort, yada, yada, yada. And then trying to hire someone to sell that while it's like 16 grand, 20 grand, or a few thousand. Or if you go the low end where you're just doing like hosting, you're doing like website building, you're doing maintenance, then you've got clients that have a high expectation of what you should do. Yeah. And they're quite frustrating. Yeah. So what is your business model like? What is it? How do you do it? Like, how's it structured? How do you find clients? You know what I mean? Yeah, it's interesting. I think there's websites kind of for everybody. There's quite a big range, because sometimes we work with really small businesses that just need really basic websites, and I suppose also when they're coming with kind of a smaller budget, they also want to fit as much as they can into that small budget, and so often it actually ends up being kind of the tougher project because they want to fit in as much functionality, and often it's stuff that they really need but for a small budget. And then we've got people with much larger budgets that are almost more blasé about the whole project, because they just have so much money to throw around, and they kind of have the list of what they need, and we can easily do it for that budget. And so that's almost like the easier project to work on. The model, I end up kind of being really client facing. So I work with kind of clients from the start to the end, and I'm their one point of contact, and the people that I work with are all behind the scenes, so they never end up meeting them. But so I'm kind of just one-on-one with the client the whole time, and that works quite well. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see down the road what happens and how that kind of expands, and yeah, what the nature of that will be. Because you're right, like when I'm talking to clients, I understand the whole process and what can be done and what can't be done, and I can answer any questions right there and then. If you had a salesperson who didn't understand the website and the product, it'd be pretty hard to sell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always think about that. So pretty much for like 10 podcasts in a row, I've just obsessed over a guy called Alex Hormozi.
Okay.
Layla Hormozi's epic too.
Yeah.
Depending on what sort of one you resonate with more. And he just talks about making an offer so irresistible people feel stupid saying no to.
Okay. Yeah.
And I just think there's something that doesn't exist in website design, in my opinion. It's a reputation sell, or it's like you're saying with those people that have that high price point. They're not too fussed about, they just want it to look pretty and have great functionality, and maybe they have a good marketing channel to acquire leads, but probably don't. Most of them, no one really goes to the website unless they're like an e-commerce and they're just optimized everything. But if it's like a service company, they've got a website, no one really visits, they feel it's good because it's pretty, and they don't really convert anything from it.
Yeah, a lot of people don't really care about their websites. They just kind of know that they need one, and so they just want one that's up.
Which is mad. So if you're providing a service to a business owner, essentially it's all money. How do you make the money? And if it's not money, then they have enough money where it doesn't have to be about money, and it's about brand and reputation and legacy and whatnot. But if you're not making a client money, even if it's like a lawyer, even if it's HR, there must be a way to structure that offer. So one, you can train someone to like sell it, and two, it's easy to sell. You don't need to sell it. So maybe we can go on an exploratory journey on what your plan is. So because if it's a lifestyle choice, I was talking to the last guy, he's like, okay, I just want to have a good lifestyle. I don't trust staff. I find it hard to, support them, and they're usually not as good as me. So I'm like, that's a one-man band mindset. That's going to be hard to grow out of.
Yeah.
So if you want a lifestyle, fucking incredible business. You do a couple projects once in a while, you focus on it, you're client facing, you have a few, contractors to help deliver it. But what's the plan? What do you want from life? If you keep doing this and traveling the world, is that kind of...
Yeah, I mean, I love kind of everything to do with this business. So being involved in actually designing and building the websites is really fun. I've also come to really love the sales side of things as well, which I didn't expect. I hate sales, cold calls especially. I'd rather rip my arm off than cold call someone, just because I feel like there's so many people in the industry that just kind of cold call. They're really pushy about websites, and because they know that people sometimes just want a website, they just know that they need one, so it's a numbers game. They'll just call heaps of people, get in touch with heaps of people, promise them everything, and then kind of once they've signed up to a contract or locked into a website platform, they've just got them until they try to leave, and then they trap their website. It's a whole thing. But so I really love the idea of actually being able to help people get a website that they have control over and that they're able to own even if we aren't involved, and they can edit it, and they've just got a lot more kind of autonomy, which is awesome. In terms of whether I think eventually, in order to be able to do more websites, I will be kind of entirely stepping out of doing the design and the development, and maybe focusing just more on the sales and kind of growing the team behind the scenes to be able to accommodate more. Eventually, in order to do sales, and if I could step out of it a little bit more again, it would be training up someone, hopefully to kind of know what I know as well, or to have someone who is a website designer kind of move into sales, because selling a website is so much easier when you have a really deep knowledge of how it's built, what the process is, and what can and can't be done. It's so frustrating talking to someone who doesn't know websites and is just trying to sell you on kind of a set number of pages and it can do this or it can do that, and then you start and it can't. That's tough.
Interesting. Yeah, well, you talk about sales, and I love sales.
Okay, I hate sales, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just see sales as you're solving a problem in a way they understand.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing. If you're doing it cheesy and just thinking about yourself, like the best salesmen genuinely care.
Yeah.
Have immense conviction in what they're selling. Feel like they're doing a disservice if they don't sell it. And, you know, they're truth tellers. So it's like, hey, nah, I don't think this is right for you. Sorry. Like, you know, that's the right thing to do. So there's a bit of a slimy perception and cold calling, and no one gives a fuck about you, and they're just selling you and put pressure on you because humans are fearful of other people. So if you just put enough pressure, they'll do it. So on the sales front, we can call it whatever the fuck you want. It's consulting.
Yeah, okay.
What were your lessons? So the first moment you're like, okay, I'm getting some referrals.
Mm-hmm.
What's your sales process? Have you ever thought about how you do it? Like, how you acquire? Like, how do you know where your clients are to find them? Do you wait for the phone to ring? Do you have a process of like consoling them in the first meeting, understanding what their objectives are? Like, what's your structure?
Yeah, so I mean, I have people come through a few different streams. Like, I run Google Ads, and some come through there. Some come through my website, and then I get a few coming through from a few different kind of freelancer marketplace almost, because sometimes businesses are looking for a freelancer, but really they're just looking for a website designer because they need a website. So they come through there. One of them is Unicorn Factory. It's in New Zealand, and it's really high quality. Because so many like Fiverr and Upwork and all them, they're really low tier, and we won't even mention them. But yeah, there's a few out there that are really curated collections of people that are good at what they do, and that's one of them. So I work through a few different streams, and then when people come through, I often schedule a video call with them, and we end up just chatting about the current website that they have or a bad experience that they've had with someone else. It's really popular. And then people already kind of have in their mind exactly what they need. It's almost just taking what they have in their mind and putting it on paper, because often people have a really good idea of what they want, even how they want it to look sometimes. It's very rare that someone just says, like, take the reins and come up with whatever and I'll trust you. And then from there, I kind of put together more of a plan than like a quote. So rather than just pricing, it's more of a plan, so they can kind of, because a lot of people just don't understand the website process at all. Like, it's an entirely different thing that they haven't done before, or they've had like an agency do it who kind of just behind the scenes, they had no idea really what was happening, and then they just got the final website at the end. So I'll kind of map out the timeline and the process and what's involved and what it will look like, and kind of features to think of that they might not even have thought about, or pages they might not have thought about, and also some pricing options, because some people want to kind of consider how much investment to put in, and then from there they'll kind of end up typically just running with one of them, and we get started. Yeah.
So because I used to train salespeople, so I did it because I was petrified of talking to people.
Yeah.
So I did commission only sales and talked to 40 new people a day.
Oh.
So it's up to about 100,000 now. So, and it's always interesting to see the sort of archetype. So you're very professional, very knowledgeable, and you sort of assert like an authoritative sort of vibe, even though you're like being all nice and sweet and unthreatening, which you can find that as well. Like, especially if you had, say, if you're a 6'10" guy, and you're coming off with that authoritative vibe, like, it might be a little hard. You'd have to be really good at rapport. Yeah. So because you balance your authoritative vibe and professionalism with not being a threatening sort of person, so you can push
I'm
people.
5'4".
Yeah, it helps. It definitely helps.
Yeah.
But what's in that plan that you make? So do you think of like their emotions and their personal objectives, or is it purely just the reassurance piece of how this is going to lay out? Like, what do you like? So I'm like, my goal is I want a website to look like this, but the underlying reason is I want reputation. I want to differentiate myself from the others. Do you incorporate that sort of personalized component of the person you're talking to?
Yeah, it depends kind of what they're looking for. A lot of that we'll kind of talk about on the video call first. And sometimes I find when we include stuff like that in the plan, that's almost looks a little copy and paste. It looks like we haven't kind of personalized it to them sometimes. So it depends kind of what angle they're coming at it from. I think often we end up talking about how the website could extend what they're doing or make kind of some of their business processes more efficient as well, which brings a lot of value. So if they're kind of taking orders, for example, or they've got a sales piece on their website where form submissions come in, what could we do after they come in that adds value? So would it go into a sales tool, and then we have some automated emails that go out and things like that. So if they're a service-based business, it's how can we make their sales process more efficient if they don't have one? Or if they kind of are selling a product, we kind of often are giving advice on how they could, if they added a few more apps that could extend the functionality of what they were selling, it might sell more. So yeah.
So you very rarely go the conversion piece, huh? It's more functionality in the back end to make their life easier.
Yeah. I've kind of find promising conversions or promising a set amount of kind of extra sales or things like that can kind of, I mean, it can get quite tricky. It's hard to kind of quantify often like how much impact the website will have. And when I see other people promising like, oh, it'll triple your sales, it's like, okay, look, there's so much else involved in a business to like triple sales. The website's one part, but it's what's happening before and after, and it's kind of everything. Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah, and then you have satisfied customers because you're not over-promising and under-delivering.
Yeah, because I feel like we get that a lot of people coming in and they're like, oh, we just worked with this person and they said it would be really great, and they custom coded it and now we're trapped because they've custom coded it and they said all this would happen and it's not, and it's also broken. We just want something that works that we can fit into our business. So
it makes sense. So like a lot of the client bases, I imagine, are jaded because the whole reason you're on the show is just because I was just going through a list of agencies. So
yeah.
Oh, I just want to meet all these agencies to partner with them. Went to partner with one, and then it didn't work out. It didn't feel right with me. But all the ones I called, I was like, what are you giving people? Like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, yeah. Like I'm not particularly knowledgeable. I'm only just learning advertising now. Yeah. I've done content for a while, but when I talked to them, it was just apparent to me that they were salespeople, and all they would do, they would do a volume of sales where they'd lock you into a 12-month contract and charge you a large amount each month, and then sell to the next person, but not necessarily deliver on the expectation. Yeah. And then I see those people that have made custom websites that, you know, they can't edit or change, and now they're fucked and they're stuck with it. Yeah. Or over-promising, saying, hey, we can increase your conversion piece to make the sale, and then disappearing into the night. Yeah. And then just using some template that they just got from Wix or whatever. Yeah. Yeah. So it is interesting. So you're not actually, because people believe they need a website. Mm-hmm. So you're not selling the need for a website. You're giving them reassurance that you're the right person to do it. Yeah, I don't talk to many people who aren't sure entirely about whether they need a website. I'm often talking to people who know that they need one, and then I suppose I'm presenting a better option than what is already out there. I don't enjoy kind of talking people into something if I don't genuinely believe that they need it. There you go. Yeah. See, sales. Yeah. You believe in what you're selling. Yeah. And you're a truth teller. Yeah. Well, I suppose then I don't consider it sales because I feel like they actually need it. It's going to genuinely help them. Then I'm happy to, talk them into it. But if I know that they don't need it, I don't know how people do it. Yeah. 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 Why? I used to sell things I didn't believe in. Yeah. Which was charity, which is kind of fucked that I don't believe in it. Okay. So that commission-only sales job, when I was talking to people, we would represent all the major charities in Australasia. Ah, okay. Because the whole model is you get people to sign up and pay every month for a year, and then that's when they take the cut. And then people will keep staying on. So the charity takes no risks, but pays a hefty percentage, 80%. The first year. Whoa. And then after that, like major charities, I won't name them, they would, you know how they take clothes and sell them?
Mm-hmm.
One of them, all of that went to admin.
Wow.
So I was out there, not all that passion. Like, it's like horrific charities like cancer, impoverished people. And I was just like, you know.
Yeah, that feels wrong.
So what I used to have to do, because the tonality would influence people more than what I had to say. So I'd have to think of my dog that died to have the tonality to communicate that way.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so subsequently I've learned to authentically sell and to be a truth teller and only sell things I believe in.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that you're successful at it and you actually have that same mindset of selling what you believe in, only, you know, don't push them if they don't. But then you talked about pushing them. So I'm curious, what is your, what sort of tricks do you use, so to speak? You might not consciously do it, and I could probably unpack it because I'm more of a systemized, awkward cunt that had to learn how to communicate, whereas you might just intuitively do it.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
there's nothing that I have kind of in a bag of tricks that I have kind of on
okay,
stack.
what about close? What about a close you do? Because you did an optional close, just FYI. You have these options, but it's assumptive because those are the only options they can pick.
Yeah.
So you are doing it.
Yeah.
You might not consciously do it. So maybe what about a process? So let's say, what's either a common objection people have where they're not sure then?
I think often I know I'm talking to people who are also talking to 5 other people as well. So I know that I'm going into the conversation pretty much just knowing that I have to beat out the other 5 people that they're talking to, because I find that most people, once they know that they are going to buy a website, they kind of get in touch and organize maybe 4 or 5 calls with different people, and they'll most likely, if they're ever going to move ahead, they'll move ahead with one of those 5 people. And so I will often know that and go into it with that in mind. So I suppose something that I'll try to fit into every call is kind of a pros and cons list that they should keep in mind when talking to the other people. Because it's genuine, because some people will build websites on WordPress, which I just really don't believe in, because it traps you to the platform, it breaks all the time, it's really expensive ongoing, and those are genuine opinions I hold. But I'll say to people, you know, you need to be careful of this platform, or you need to be careful of people who want to lock you into really long contracts and big promises and things like that, and they'll probably keep that in mind when they're talking to the other people. And so that's probably something that I do most times that is a sales technique, but I like to think it's genuine because it's giving people more information that I believe other people won't say.
Yeah, you're not a salesman. You can sleep at night.
Yeah, yeah.
So just on that, I know you got some more there because I saw you take another breath. So that's called pre-handling an objection.
Yeah.
Or third-party examples is normally how people would do it. So you're talking to a client, you're expecting them to have a potential objection. You're giving them solutions to that objection before it's presented. Because have you ever been in like an argument and someone's like, I'm right, and you're like, I'm right, and then they eventually maybe win and you concede? How do you feel about yourself? You know, you feel fucking shit.
Yeah.
Or you never admit that you're wrong. So they talk about in sales like the longest way around is the shortest way home. So if you don't actually go direct and you go around with these pros and cons lists, you're giving them the solution to their objection before you got the resistance, so they're more malleable to it.
Yeah.
So what you're doing is the objection is like, I have other options, essentially. Like, I'm thinking of these different people that I could use. So instead of you waiting for them to say, hey, I've got this person, why are you better, blah, 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 and then you hashing it out, you're actually saying, hey, this is what you should do. You're training them. So then when they're presented with these other people, they're like, oh, wait.
I've already heard that that's not good. Yeah.
Interesting. What led to you creating that? Did you do that from the start? How did you learn to do that?
I think it started from, well, I mean, the initial one that I used to always bring up with people was WordPress as an example, because I know that so many people sell it as an option. I hate it. I hear so many bad stories from people who are on it. And so that was kind of an easy one to bring up. And then I would often hear from people that they were about to kind of get off the phone with me and jump on the call with other people. And so I suppose I just kind of started to think, well, what are those other people going to be saying? How can I position myself so that they're going to choose me over other people. And yeah, I suppose it came from there.
Okay. So usually I don't know if you're enjoying this because
Yeah.
I like to, I guess, the good thing about the way I approach sales was I was awful at sales, but I had to understand why things worked.
Yeah.
So I could be okay at sales.
Yeah.
So that means I can systemize and teach people it.
Yeah.
Because I can like come across you like a gun that's naturally just intuitively doing things and just trying to solve problems because they care, but then unpack that and make it scalable for someone else.
Yeah.
So objection handling is a key thing that needs to be taught, which is what you did. And the better way to do it is what you did, or third-party examples. So let's say you might have the decision maker objection. My business partner isn't here.
Ah, yes. Yep.
So you expect that to happen because you ask them, what's your business? And they're like, oh, I've got a business partner. So you're like, oh shit, that's going to be an objection. And all you do is you use an example that's just like them and provide a solution. So for example, you have a business partner. I was just talking to someone the other day. They were sort of nervous about, what will they think? How do they feel about it? They don't want to make that decision themselves. So that's why we've got all this plan. You're not locked in any way. It's just a lot easier to get it underway because, businesses are hard to get everyone in the same room on the same objective. So we've got all this information just so you can answer any questions. And like I said to him, like if he wanted to just call me and blame it all on me, that's fine. You know what I mean? Usually it's like the wife and husband sort of objection handling, but in business it might be business partner.
Yeah.
So a third party example that solves their specific problem, but you're not directly saying that. You're using an example that gives them the solution, like your pros and cons list.
Yeah.
Same concept. So the other part is intro, short story, like who you are, what you do, problem, solution, close. So what's your problem? Like how do you emphasize their pain to motivate making a decision now?
Yeah, so I mean, a great book that I read, because I love the psychology behind different things. I also find that really interesting. The best book I've ever read on it was Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. I love it.
Yeah. I did that to you on a call from his book.
Yeah, because you cold called me.
Yeah.
And I ended up leaving the call and I was like, that's the best cold call I've ever had.
Oh, yeah, wow.
Well, by the end of the call, we had a scheduled video call, which I never do. Like the minute I pick up the phone and I hear someone's cold calling me, I instantly shut off and I'm like, I don't want to do this. Whatever it is, it just already puts like a bad taste in your mouth sometimes. But that was the best cold call I'd ever had because by the end of the call, we had a meeting set up.
Yeah.
And I'm here. So it was, it was really good. But yeah, one thing I'll do in a video call with people is try to understand what they're looking for really fast. So if they don't really care about the website and they know they just need it up, or they care a lot about what it looks like, or they want to share their story, or they need leads, and then I'll try to repeat that kind of back to them in their own words so that we get on the same page. And it's one of those tips from the book, which is try to get to a that's right as quick as possible, which is when they say something like, oh, that's exactly it, or that's right, that's exactly what I need. And then suddenly they feel like you understand exactly what they're talking about and they feel confident that you're going to produce something that they like. Yeah.
That makes sense. On the thing that I use for Never Split the Difference is getting people to say no as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So, but people that don't know, he's like an FBI hostage negotiator, and you imagine you're calling someone that's got their back up and has a certain expectation. So in sales, they often teach you to get people to say yes. The reason being is often people want to stay. I'm saying this for the listeners. I'm not mansplaining this whole podcast.
I didn't think you were.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
But so often people want to stay consistent with their perceived identity. So if you kept saying yes throughout this conversation, there's a certain social pressure that you need to stay consistent with it, but it's unsettling. You don't want to do it early on. So often in a call, I'll say, is now a bad time? And they're going to either say no or yes. But I need to get enough reports for them to think either who the fuck is Ryan. So I always go like, hey Sam. Yeah. Whatever. It's Ryan Melton. How you going? And you're like, fuck, who's this? Do I know Ryan Melton? Like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Which buys you time to ask you the question, is it now a bad time?
Yeah.
They say no, and it's like, whew. So I know I can invest in the call, so there's time, but I've also put them at ease.
Yeah.
That's from Never Split the Difference. So the problem, how do you give people reassurance to share the real problem or what they want?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have already seen some of my work by the time we do a call as well. And so they'll get a good idea of what I'm capable of and what kind of websites we've done for other people. I definitely think once they've kind of explained what they want, it's definitely repeating it back to them in slightly different words, which also helps you understand what they want because you really have to listen, which is another tip that I think I've found is often just letting them speak the entire call and just prompting questions and just letting them talk. And I'm pretty much furiously writing notes, just writing down everything, because often I'll use some of those notes in the quote or plan that we kind of put together. So then they can see some of the things that they've said on the call in the plan. And I hate when you kind of talk to someone and then you get this quote that you can tell they've put 5 minutes into and it looks like a generic quote that they've sent out to everyone else, because I instantly feel like they don't really care. They don't really know what I'm looking for. I'm probably just like one of many. But if you have something that's just a little bit personalized and you can tell that they've kind of taken what you said on the call on board, makes a big difference.
It's smart. So there's another thing. As I say, I'm just bringing the system behind the execution. So often they say a great sales call is 70% of them talking, 30% of you talking. Because they say selling isn't telling. Yeah. So the biggest mistake I see salespeople make is closing at the wrong time.
Oh, okay. And
often it's because they oversell. So think of it kind of like a pattern interruption. So when a person comes in, they don't trust you, they don't see value in the product. Maybe they see a little more value because, they're already aware of their problem and your skills. So maybe yours is a little higher. But the rapport is earning the right for them to listen to you. So you're listening to them. And then the problem is a break in their pattern. So you know how hypnotists, they shake your hand and click and shit? Yeah. Breaks your pattern, so you're more suggestible. So what happens is reassurance, problem, they're aware of the problem, and then you have a little bit of the solution, but then you close. But if you keep talking, it's the impulse curve. If you keep talking, selling the solution, they're no longer as malleable and open to change.
Interesting.
So essentially rapport, earning the right to listen, emphasizing a problem, so they're like, shit, I need to change something, and then knowing when to say, change this, or let's do this. And that's the whole game. So I'm wondering, what's another thing? So rapport, if someone talks really fast to you, and they're like, blah, 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 and you're like, so this is what, do you ever adjust to how they're talking? Do you ever find yourself sitting in a similar way to them and stuff like that?
I haven't thought about that consciously. That reminds me of that Theranos TV show where she lowers her voice. Okay, have you heard about Elizabeth Holmes?
No.
Major involved in major fraud in the US. She was like a woman who rose really high in business. And the blood one.
The blood lady. Yeah.
And then if you watch the TV show, she purposely lowers her voice when talking to men, I think especially, in order to seem like more authoritative. And it's a real conscious thing that she does. It's really weird. But I think naturally when you're talking to people, you kind of quite quickly know whether you're going to get along with them in a really natural way or whether they're quite different from you, and it's probably going to be like a lot more professional. Finding kind of common topics to kind of talk about or interests is always quite nice. I hate when you kind of go into a call and you straight away are talking about what they need or trying to jump in and kind of talk over them. You kind of want to get them talking and comfortable. So it's nice if you have something in common. But I mean, a lot of the meetings I do are on video calls, so there's not a lot of kind of body language to mimic and things like that. But you want to match people's pace and kind of make them feel comfortable. Yeah, that's a good point.
This is fascinating. So you're just doing these things.
Well, I've definitely read. I love reading like business books, psychology books. Another one, my favorite is Seth Godin. He's great, and
Purple Elephant. Or
yeah, that one. But then there's also a orange book called This Is Marketing.
Okay.
And it's a really good book. I've reread it, which is a big kind of high recommendation from me. I've read it like 2 or 3 times. And it talks all about branding, and rather than just kind of turning on Google Ads or putting out content or just doing kind of a call with people, it's about really like sitting down and thinking about like what place in the market you take up, what is kind of your mission. It's quite kind of a lot of people would think it's like, oh, it's just like a nice to have thing. Like, oh, we really just want to sell websites. We don't really care about having a mission. But when you actually sit down and you think about like, why am I selling this? Where do we want to be in the market? Do we want to be someone who's really genuine and goes the extra mile and kind of goes a bit beyond the scope to keep people really happy and things like that? And when you kind of know where you are and what you're offering, it comes across. It's so much easier to put it across to people rather than just thinking, oh, I sell websites or oh, I sell this.
Makes sense. It's like like if you, let's say you're going fishing and you put a big hook because you don't want to catch little fish. You be conscious of what you're putting out, because then it's consistency. It'll probably help your conversion. Yeah. There's on Alex Mosey again. He has this hideous website called Gym Launch. Okay. Like he's made a lot of money. Like he makes something like $100 million revenue a year now and sold 3 companies for about $100 million. Yeah. So he's very good at sales and marketing and production, but his website's hideous. But what he did is he had about 1,000 gym owners as clients, and he asked them questions, the best 20% of them that paid the most, that would follow instructions, yada, 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 and found out consistencies of that 20%. And some of them was like, oh, they're conservative, they're blokes and they own this kind of business. Yeah. So he ignored everything else in his marketing. So it cost more up front, but the conversion was so much higher and the money he made from each client was so much higher. Yeah. So I imagine, in a sense, similar to like a human experience, is like, if you were just selling and you didn't have a website, you would need to filter through different people. But let's say you were in like a group setting and you presented yourself in a certain way, you had certain mannerisms, a certain style and presence, you would attract a certain type of person. Yeah. And it would be consistency through that. Yeah. Which I imagine, like I struggle with like, oh, the pretty colors and think about this and how people feel. But to me, it makes sense. It's like you're qualifying all the people before they get to you, and the consistency of the experience leads to more sales.
For sure. Yeah, there's that whole danger of appealing to everybody appeals to nobody, which is so true. And I think a lot of people in a website context just kind of make their website really bland, appeal to everybody. We can do everything. We can do every service. We can do it all. And by doing it all, you're kind of a specialist in none of them. A really good piece of advice that I had, which I have just recently implemented, was from a guy called Alex Merton, and he has a website studio called Almond Studio, and he builds incredible websites. And he said the best thing that he ever did was to niche down really fast and just promote himself as a specialist in one thing, in one type of service. And so by doing that, he drew in exactly his dream client and his dream kind of businesses. So he's doing the work that he loves, and then it also just allows him to focus on one thing and do it really well. And I thought that's great.
Well, that's another thing Alex Mosey says is one avatar, one channel.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, the riches are in the niches or whatever.
Yeah.
It was interesting, going back to what you were saying before, how you do rapport first and you don't like jumping into things straight away, and then when you talk to people you mirror it and change to their tone and pacing. You probably know this, but for the listeners, called mirroring and matching. Have you heard of that?
Yeah. So
often, people, if they're in rapport, they'll start copying the pace, they'll say certain words, they'll sit similarly and whatnot. So if you do that early on in a call or in a video call or in person, it's easier to put them at ease. The interesting thing as well is like you're doing rapport first, because if you jump straight into the pitch, you'll have a lot of think abouts You won't have trust. They might not get their credit card, all that sort of stuff, because you haven't gone through that process. So the real art is when you're talking to someone and they keep trying to go that direction. So like professional, get to the point, I'm jaded, I don't trust you, I've got these 5 other calls, whatever. Being able to acknowledge their feeling that you're going that direction, but then go back to the rapport. Do you ever do things like that? So it's like, someone's like, yeah, so what does this house work? You know what I mean? Like, how much is it going to cost? Do you get that sort of stuff?
Yeah, some people kind of pick up the call and straight away just kind of like, yeah, what's this going to cost? And I mean, with websites, it's really like, how long is a piece of string? Because it's really what you want, and we can kind of almost be really flexible with budgets to kind of, if people kind of say, oh, I've got this much budget, I've got 10 grand to play around with, kind of what can you do for that? Then we'll kind of put together a list of different options of what you can do for that. So there's like lots of avenues. But yeah, some people get on a call, they just want to dive straight in. You can tell they kind of only put 10 minutes aside and they just want to get all the answers. And that's fine. I mean, some people don't really want to chat, and I don't really like pushing people. I hate anything that's like unnatural, because that just, then you end up being unnatural. So I will definitely answer all their questions, but I'll try to ask them a few questions about what are you looking for? Like, what's your ideal scenario? What do you have at the moment? And then just kind of let them talk. So I'll try to drive them back to kind of talk more just about what they're looking for.
Yes, that's like a statement of empathy.
Right.
So think about, if I call you, cold call, you've already got preconceived ideas of who I am and like, oh, what the fuck? Are you a client or are you trying to sell me something? Get off the phone.
Yeah.
So I need to acknowledge that I won't waste your time, because you imagine you're stuck on a call, you're busy, you got all these different projects, and they use it in a club too. Like if you're, I don't know if you approach guys or whatever, or girls or whatever, but if you go over and you never acknowledge how they're feeling, like let's say, you know, that creepy guy in a club, he comes up to you, and he doesn't like acknowledge that you feel uncomfortable or that you want to talk to your friends, and you just sort of stands there and lingers, and you're like, fucking just get out of my face, like, why are you here? But I don't want to say it too bad, because then you might get grumpy because of all these other cunts that I've had in my life. So acknowledging how a person's feeling, and then, you know, carrying on and communicating. So it's like with that person, they have this energy that needs to be acknowledged, so they feel comfortable to trust and to let go. So you acknowledge, hey, I hear you, I'm doing this, and now let's go to this. So like consoles them and then redirects them. Probably a bad example to use the...
No, I mean, that's a good example. I suppose people always know that they're... they kind of know that they're being sold to when you go into a video call already. And so they're probably already nervous and kind of on the defense. So it's really, I like to come from the way of being like, I know I know you've got 5 other calls today, or you probably have some kind of concerns about the website or concerns about managing it ongoing. That's a typical one. People hate to kind of feel that they don't have control, because back in the day, people just custom coded your website and you didn't have any control, and you had to pay every time you wanted it to be changed, and that's not always the case now, but that's a common objection or worry. And so I like to kind of put people at ease by saying, you know, if it comes up, like, I hate cold calls, I hate kind of the generic sleazy sales. I only really want to deal with people who really want to deal with me. So that's a good way to go about it.
And we will talk about websites soon, and we've done 48 minutes. So
oh no.
But like, I think you're really talented at sales. I can sense that about you. Like the genuinely caring, the way you're learning and making an effort to be better at what you do, and it's problem based. So you're experiencing these challenges for them, and you're trying to find a solution, and combining that with genuinely caring. It's a hard thing to sell still. If you just, for example, just picked a product that had a high ticket item and there was enough volume of leads that you could, you know, keep selling it and scale it, you can make a ridiculous amount of money. Not that that's what you would do. No,
but it probably stops me from selling more, to be honest. Yeah, I see some people who do really average services, and I know that there's been lots of people that have come away from them really unhappy. But they are churning through work.
Yeah.
they have so much business because they're just kind of selling the dream to everyone, but financially it's working for them. Yeah.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, some of them will be making money for sure, but if they have a retention issue, so that it'll plateau and bottom out, and then they wouldn't be able to get to any sort of meaningful scale.
Yeah, that's what you kind of, I mean, as you'd hope karma kind of does that, but
it hasn't.
I don't know. Yeah, we'll see what happens. There's so many businesses that, a lot of people in the industry like refer to them as like cowboys, just selling all sorts, and then clients end up with disasters at the end of it. But I mean, it doesn't even really make much financial sense, because in terms of like reoccurring revenue, it makes so much. It's financially so much better if we can work with someone for a really long time.
Yeah.
And even if we do a website at the start and then 2 years later it kind of comes up to the time where they need to do another one to kind of refresh what they're doing, like realign their brand, and we're still around then and we do a second website for them. So it makes so much sense to try to keep people on for the long term.
It's a better model for sure.
Way better.
What's your cap? Like, how many could you like consciously do a good job for?
Like websites in a month or
3 a month?
Yeah, because they're kind of always rolling. Probably we kind of end up, at the moment, we're probably doing maybe like 12 over 3 months we could do quite comfortably, because the design and the development, the actual doing of it, that's actually really straightforward. It just depends how much feedback and adjustments you get through and how many conversations you need to have in order to do it, because the actual time it takes to design a website and build it, they're actually relatively quite little. It's all the calls back and forth, or the time the client takes to kind of get their team together to all sit down and review it and things like that. That's actually what takes the most time. Yeah.
There's bring Alex Mosey again. He talks about value being desired outcome, likelihood of achieving desired outcome, and speed of which you achieve it, and how much effort you had to put in. So I sort of see people as like fat people in disguise, which is a bit bad way to say it, but like we need to be energy efficient. So we need to, like compare like what someone might charge for lipo compared to what they'd charge to go to the gym. So gym is a lot of effort. You're not sure if you'll achieve the results, and it takes a long time. So I'm just wondering, with your product, is there a way to deliver faster?
Yeah, you can definitely cut down the process, because some people we have come in and they need a website in a few weeks, like 3 weeks. We can do that too. And if they're really efficient, it's definitely, I think the biggest thing that cuts down out the process that we do is having a really long initial call and really fleshing out everything that they want, and literally just letting them talk for as long as they need to tell us everything that they need. Because the most frustrating thing that happens is if you have a really short initial call and you go, yeah, we've got it, we know what we're doing. You go away and do a design and it's not what they want. And then you go back and do the really long call where you hear from them everything they actually want. So if you can get it out of them at the start, kind of everything that someone needs, so much more efficient.
So let's say like you had the power to know everything they ever wanted and needed, and you could just execute. How long would it take in terms of hours? I mean, you're charging on value, so I don't think people should hear this, oh, you're only doing this many hours. Like, what the fuck, rip off.
Yeah.
What, like, if you just didn't have to rely on them, we could just make it, how quick could you turn them around?
We could do...
Like quality, though. Like, you're still not changing anything.
If we had someone, if we were kind of sitting side by side at a desk and we could get feedback instantly, I reckon we could do a website in 7 days.
That's great. So then I wonder, because that's what I keep, because I hear you and the way you communicate, the professionalism, the fact that you care, the student mentality that you're trying to learn and develop all the time, and the way this is a completely uncomfortable new experience you're navigating and said yes. You have all the, like, a good example is like a story of Warren Buffett. I don't know if you've heard the story of, he had like this college graduate that was just as smart as him, just as talented.
No.
Okay, so basically Warren Buffett had this guy, friend, really intelligent, really gifted, could achieve so much in life. They chose different boats. So he went this way, Warren Buffett went this way. Warren Buffett obviously became a billionaire. He didn't succeed. And that's when it taught Warren that, like, it doesn't matter how hard you row or how talented you are, it depends what boat you're in.
Is there a difference in the boats, or is it?
Yeah, so they didn't do the same industry. They went completely different directions. I think it was something like engineering or something like that. So with your one, it's like you've got all the talent, at least from a one-person band, and be able to sell at scale. Yeah. I don't know how you would manage. Like, we didn't really talk about leadership or anything.
Yeah.
But if you had something that you could just sell and have the infrastructure of people to support you to deliver it, you could be a lot more successful. And I'm just wondering,
it's interesting to think about.
Yeah, but if you had a 7-day, like, is there a way to help clients give better feedback? Is there a structure you could create that helps that bottleneck?
Yeah, what I've been working on this whole year especially is refining the whole process so it's as efficient as possible. We know exactly what tasks in the process other people need to be doing. Because I think with the nature of websites coming in and they're all pretty different, it can sometimes seem like it's hard to actually nail down a process. But it's actually, if you actually sit down and write kind of step 1 through to 20, there's actually some real set things that happen over and over again. And so I'm in the process of kind of putting together a really clear step 1 through to finish, and then it being a bit more of a product that we can repeat. The websites, of course, will look totally different, but on our end, it'll just be so much more standardized, and it means we can move through more work quicker. Everyone knows what they're doing. And we could just move through a lot more websites. Does
niching improve that process, or does it not matter?
So I think the niche that I am moving towards is being the behind-the-scenes team for agencies, which is a really long-term partnership with agencies, which we already have a few relationships with. And that just means that we do all their websites for them. So they might be a PR agency or a digital marketing agency. Naturally, people that are there often need a website and they want to offer it, or they had a full-time web designer that is now gone. We are the person that does all their websites, and often it's white label.
Well, that's essentially how the guy I work with is probably one of the best financial advisors in the country, purely because he started one of the largest independent advising firms. He just went out on his own. So the average advisor might have 20 to 30 million funds under management. He has like 100 million. So he grew his business through intermediaries. It's the same concept you're talking about. It's like befriend the fisherman instead of going hunting every day.
Yeah.
The challenge is like you're not that would work from a sales component. It doesn't necessarily mean what you do is niche, because you're helping someone that helps multiple types of people.
Yes, yeah, true.
But I guess, is it really like if you put a percentage on it, let's say you only help doctors, or you did the like everything approach, but you had a process.
Yeah.
What percentage of time would that save? Or would it just be the same? Is it comparative?
That would be interesting. Just targeting it to one type of person that needs a website and doing it on repeat.
Yeah, because then you got templates, processes. You're still customized, but everything's, exactly their needs. There's consistency of what they want.
Yeah, you definitely could. Or you could even, because what you can do with websites is have different landing pages and Google Ads campaigns driving into those. So you could almost pick 2 or 3 and have your website look entirely different to those 2 or 3 people. That would be interesting. I wonder how much time you'd save. There's always, if you were to pick doctors, for example, there's people in the lower end of the market and the higher end of the market, and the websites you'd hope would still look quite different in terms of look and feel. I would hate to be someone that started offering kind of template websites where they all looked cookie cutter and the same, because actually like a template, that doesn't really save much time. You could have kind of a pre-built design where you just input people's data almost into it, their images and their text. They wouldn't really save that much time, and I just think the quality of what you're doing would drop significantly.
Okay. Makes sense. Because, I mean, the value you add is in the customization to the individual. So, yeah, it's like you're saying that process structure is the way to do it. Like that, how you deliver it, but I feel like you pretty got that on lock. And as long as you can, you could have some level of division of labor, like someone's just an expert in hero images or whatever the fuck, and someone's that. And then that could lead to, just like a factory, it's people just do wheels, people just do this, and then they become experts on that can speed up that. But it sounds like, is there a way to help get fast feedback and genuine intent of experience from the client, what they want?
Yeah.
And if you can fix that process and turn that into a 7-day thing, while doing the exceptional thing that you're doing, like caring and wanting to support them, that's something that has legs.
Yeah. Always finding ways to make things more efficient is definitely, I think, what people overlook a lot of the time.
Well, like if you say to me, all your competitors, like, oh, it'll take 6 months, it'll cost 15 grand, and you might make money, or you will make money, or improve functionality. And we're sitting there, we're waiting, we're talking, and it's your degree of trust with that person that leads to them staying on for so long. It's not actually the value of the proposition. Mm-hmm. It's like, I have this need. I trust you to solve this need. You've got credibility because of the beautiful things that you've made. Whereas if you're selling, hey, we're really good at getting instant feedback from you. We only work with people that have, respond to us within 5 minutes. This is our expectation. We charge 20 grand. We charge more up front than other people because we deliver 5 times faster. And if you're not happy, don't pay. Something like and then you can teach that to a salesperson as long as you can deliver it. That's why I was asking you. I'm like, I don't know how to do that. But if you had a fast way to get instant feedback and get the client to go through consistency of experience so you can have consistency of results.
That would be really interesting. Yeah.
Because you've rinsed that.
Yeah. You've given me things to think about.
Well, if you had a division of labor and like a team of 50 and they're all doing their special component and the system feeds them based on the process that you've set up, and every client you deliver in 7 days, and each salesperson could make 10 sales a week because you've got a good lead channel, because who the fuck does that? And then, you're making 20 grand per project, $200,000 a week.
Yeah.
And it's there's no one to compete with you because they can't.
Yeah. I love talking to people who have experience in different types of businesses because everyone has really great advice. It's sometimes hard when you talk to because when I talk to other website designers or people doing the same thing, everyone kind of has the same experience. So it's so good talking to people who are in entirely different business models because they have such good opinions on, well, what if you just looked at it entirely differently? What would that look like? Well,
I don't know how to do it. The only thing is that's hard. I know how to train salespeople and sell whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
And that's hard to sell. And that I have not seen, apart from people charging a ridiculous amount of money and having relationships with like really rich companies, I have never seen scale in that company, that structure you've got.
Yeah.
It's exactly that. It's like what happens is they hire someone, they get jaded. The person's not necessarily as good as they hoped. They get contractors because they're accountable to their own work.
Yeah.
And you act as the honorary salesman and facilitator of that, and you own the relationship with the client so you can keep going, and you do a really good job. You do customizations, you charge a lot of money, but every few months you have to start again and get someone new and keep it going.
Yeah.
So I think that's something needs to change. So I'm hoping it's you. I don't know the answers.
Yeah, it's an interesting model, I suppose. And I suppose we'll see what happens over time as well, whether things like develop and change naturally is, yeah.
Well, we're at the end. I'm going to ask a favor.
Okay.
There's a book called $100 Million Offers.
Okay.
If you could read that.
$100 Million Offers. All right.
Or acquisition.com/training. This is Alex Amosi.
Yeah.
He's just got free courses that explains how to do it, and they're like 10 minutes each, and there's maybe 7 of them. And think about how to create an irresistible offer in your competency.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's my request.
Okay. I can definitely do that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I love reading business books.
So anyone that was listening to this that was like, okay, this person's really good at sales. No, but like if people want someone that genuinely cares, is going to take the time to understand them and wants to build a website, who should find you, why should they find you, and where should they find you?
Yeah, my website is skyrocket.nz. And I'm also on LinkedIn, Samantha Thornton-Jones. Yeah, they're the best two places to find me.
Boom. And why should they find you?
I mean, I feel like we've talked about it for an hour. Yeah. I suppose, someone who's willing to kind of take the time to sit down with you and actually build a website that you need, rather than selling you 3 times the sales for your business and disappearing into the night. Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
That's all right. Boom.